welcome to episode 10 of Trucking Story. Bob Trucker here. So if you remember last time we had some video problems, and I started this episode and unfortunately continued to have some, even though I thought I had done things and addressed what may have been causing the problem. Found out I had not. I have since basically restarted my PC to try to clear things up. Things appear to be running much more quickly and smoothly. But the result is we had started this next load. So we're going to be joining in progress. Now we've really gone literally almost nowhere, even though there were almost 13 minutes of the previous video, which I will likely not put on the channel to not torture you with it. So the situation we've got is we are taking a job from Albuquerque to Coos Bay, Oregon. The reason we took this job was a few less experience points than some of the other options available, but it takes us through an area basically up through California. We're going to head all the way west from here to California, and as you can see, we literally have just gotten on the interstate after traveling through the city, so not much has been missed. But and it's a load of paper that is on a container instead of a dry van, which is kind of strange as well. But other than that, I think that gets you up to speed on where we're at, and we're gonna get moving here because we reloaded on the game. This is kind of how it begins. You start at a dead stop wherever you were in the road, and then you go from there. So I'm gonna hope that this works smoother than we had before. Certainly is behaving much smoother than it was before, because in the past, in the last video, it literally was moving in jerks. It was way worse than episode 9 turned out to be. So if that is the situation, not that it matters, but for full disclosure, I just because I've got time to fill, I'll probably just make sure I restart my PC anytime before I begin doing an episode, because the last thing I want is what ended up happening in episode 9, and then it just got worse in episode 10. So like I said, it was really ugly, because we had literally left the yard, driven through town without really any issues, but then the moment we turned on to the interstate, I think it took a minute and a half to actually function again, which was excruciating. And then I gave it another 2 or 3 minutes, but even the initial load in the yard I think took also like a minute and a half, where we were just kind of looking at that slightly loaded view and then doing nothing but waiting for the game to load. So, and obviously that is not a watchable video, and if I can't resolve it, this will all have to come to an end, because it's frustrating for me to try to make these and then taking all the time to do that and then upload them, and knowing that ultimately nobody's going to watch them and enjoy them. All I would get is negative comments about why'd you even bother. So, but this is honestly significantly better, so I'm hopeful that at least for this episode we're good. Now, because again, you didn't see the selection, this is about if I recall, might even be under 1,400 miles. It's only an 11,000 pound load. So obviously, as you've probably been able to tell, we get up to speed pretty quickly here. So, barring any ridiculous issues, this should actually be a pretty quick run compared to what we've been doing recently, just because it's a little bit shorter. The other piece I had shared that obviously will be lost in the fact that the previous video is scrapped is, we had put the skill point on, if you remember, at the end of episode 9 to basically extend us out to take 2,500 mile journeys. And what I had shared there is I've never seen anything offered at this point with what the game has available with the 9 states above 2,000 miles. So that last point, which basically is explained as drive anywhere, so it's anything over 2,500 miles, currently really has no value, because the 2,500 miles effectively allows you to drive anywhere with what's available in the game today. Now, as they continue to add other states, we'll see what happens, but assuming no more production issues, and that I've at least got a workable plan here going forward, then we'll likely be at the point where, if we haven't already added that 6th skill point to distance, that we could certainly do that very quickly if somehow we start seeing trips right up against that 2,500 mile marker. But I don't think adding Wyoming is going to create any kind of a significant situation like that, simply because of obviously where it goes in the map, and what that really is going to do. I'm thinking it's really going to change nothing as far as route length. Just going to give obviously different areas to drive through, which is what the point of any of these map expansions is. So I'm going to knock on wood here and say that the problems we had in episode 9 and the segment of episode 10 here that was tossed are behind us, because we've gone significantly farther without any kind of issues. So yay for that. Whoops, I again was completely hit the wrong setting on my system, because I'm once again going way too fast. Alright, well, we've got to stop here, and then I think I'm set at 80 finally. I just really don't like, as I've mentioned, these dashes that it's really interesting. We've got the road discovered on the other. We must have come the other way at some point and gotten to that interchange there, because we've got road discovered ahead of us, but we hadn't discovered this location nor the interstate, so obviously we haven't driven this way. So it's interesting. I'm trying to remember. At this point, it's far enough in this profile. We've done enough trips that I can't remember them all. Okay, I see. I think that's the one where we delivered to. Oh yeah, okay. I think I remember what that is. We delivered to that BNSF facility because we had to take that road. So yeah, we were coming from the west and heading east. So we'll see how much discoverable road we drive on, or already discovered road. Because clearly now for a bit we'll have traveled places we've been before, but once again, because we are heading west here, we probably will have segments at interchanges that maybe we haven't been on. But as I've said multiple times, it'll be what it'll be. So we just move along here. We are going to need gas. I didn't realize how empty this truck was and all the disruption that happened in trying to get this working. I didn't really even do the normal pre-checks because I was just too concerned about how things were going to operate. But hopefully at this exit, maybe. Yeah, looks like we do have fuel, so I think just to put that behind us for now, because I don't think, depending how large the tank is, it's either going to be enough with just 1,300 miles, or if it's a small setup, we're not really going to have a choice, and we're going to have to stop again anyway. So,
I'll find a new route.
But either way, given that it's only 7 a.m., we did start leaving just before 6 a.m. on this trip, so we've still got a good over 10 hours available to keep driving, so no point in pressing on further for gas, just to stop in the next couple hours. So we'll just get this done.
Let's find a new route.
Yeah, when you've got that invisible X wall right there, you just saw that car come out. It is sometimes difficult to even see that they're there. But, yeah, I'm just not great with coming into these things the right way. You can see the arrow on the ground clearly shows I should have theoretically entered the pump the other way, but I usually try to come at it from the street, and for whatever reason, that always seems to be the wrong way. Well, I'm hopeful. 169 gallons. We still hadn't even gotten the low fuel warning. So I'm hopeful that what that means is we've got at least a 200-gallon setup here, and I don't know. It'll be close because trucks tend to make 5 or 6 miles to the gallon, and so obviously even with 200 miles, we might only get 1,000 miles, so we might still have to fill up again. So sorry, just a lot going on. I don't want to cause an accident or create a problem, so whoop. That was bad. That was really bad. I heard go straight. I don't think there's anything behind me. So we'll back up. So for I'm trying to pay attention. Didn't work very well. Oh good, now he's going to be stuck in the middle. Hopefully he won't decide to clear out, but anyway. I was like, oh, I got to turn right, because that's typically what you're doing. It's pretty rare that you go straight to then get back on the interstate, but threw me for a loop. Alright, so fueled up near Holbrook there, which we had already discovered, as you can see. And yes, so we do have a segment here that was not discovered of road, so we have not gone west, at least on this portion of the route. But it'll be interesting to see how many actual locations, as far as cities, we unlock, because there's certainly significant opportunity, but and what we may do, just because we do have such a short, light trailer, this is a perfect opportunity where I will make sure at each location that we do discover it. So we may pop on and off the interstate a few times if things are not happening. I'm pretty familiar, having played the game for a while, with the cities, as I was in one of the early videos where I said we're not going to discover Salt Lake. We still haven't discovered Salt Lake on this profile, unless I've forgotten something, because unless you get off the interstate there, you really don't discover it. And I'm pretty familiar with most of the cities, how that works, so we'll see. But I think we're going to be heading up not an interstate for a good significant portion of it, and therefore I think we'll discover everything just because we'll be going through the center of town. But we'll see how it all plays out. I'm just honestly so relieved this is working smoothly again, and that we can continue this glitch-free at this point. So live and learn. But the challenges of unscripted, quote-unquote live recording, don't give us a lot of editing and post-production opportunities, because that's just not the nature of what I'm trying to do here in Trucking Story. So you kind of see the mess that sometimes happens when you're doing that. Pretty old. I guess it's like a Jeep or something. I was going to say it was a pickup, but I thought it was a pickup with a cap on the bed, but as I got closer, realized it wasn't. I don't know that I've seen a pickup with a cap on the bed within this mod that Jazzy Cat has done for the AI traffic, but so the good news is too, now this will end pretty quickly once we get to California. We've got the opportunity to go along here at 80, which obviously certainly moves us along pretty quickly. Even if we drop down here to 70, it won't be too bad, because once we hit California, the highest limits really are always 55. So, we'll be going 60 then. But for now, we are chewing up the miles pretty quickly. Alright, so I think we're heading up. Looks like, unless it has us exit, we're heading up toward Phoenix. Oh no, Phoenix is the exit. So, heading toward LA, which makes sense. But we did, we're not fully non-discovered on the road ahead, so we've come from the other direction before. Just don't recall exactly which run that was, and honestly it doesn't matter. But so yeah, hopefully if you didn't get a chance to see the last episode, go ahead and make sure you take a look at that, because we did have a good discussion about potential modification they can make to cover kind of an area if they're truly simming the trucking world that they haven't done. So even though there was some video issues, it's worth a listen. Just, I'm not going to go through it again here, but if you're curious what I was talking about and suggesting, it's, the first half hour or so of the video, as you can see in the notes from that one. I'm also thinking, man, Definitely thrown a bit, because I'm thinking I might have introduced this as Trucking Video 10, but I believe this is episode 9. I think I got tossed either because the last episode had to be split, because I had the 2-hour max that I didn't realize was set on the video recording software, and also obviously I started the video and ended on this one, so I think this is actually episode 9. So either way, I guess it doesn't matter. It'll definitely be posted correctly up on to the channel. So oops, we have sped up again, but I did not notice that. So yeah, the last town in Arizona before we hit California is Kingman. Not sure if we discovered that or not, but I believe that one we will discover off the interstate. So I think we'll be fine there, but that will give us an indication as we get closer to that, as we see that pop up on the route advisor, that sorry, I got confused with that road off to the right. It is in the actual route advisor. I was beginning to think I had the in-cab GPS on, because it mirrored the trajectory of the road we were on. I'm like, wait a minute, I've got like an echo over there. I must have somehow forgotten to turn off the in-cab nav, but had not. But yeah, as we see Kingman pop up, we'll know we're basically ending our drive through the New Mexico-Arizona section and heading into California, which will be the vast majority of what we'll be driving in this remaining part of the leg here. So, sorry, just definitely had nothing really coming to mind to chat about right now. Just, I guess my head's working over all the technical glitches I've had in the last few attempts, and these couple videos were filmed, one day after the other, so it's all still pretty fresh in my mind. Yeah. But I do think, given, there we go. So we've got Kingman there. Hopefully it won't prove me wrong, and we'll discover it here. Huh, it may not. Well, that's disappointing. So at this point, I've missed the exit. I suppose I could loop around, I guess, if it doesn't discover it. What I have found is sometimes, again, I don't know if they're trigger points, how they do the discovery settings in the game. But, yeah, I may just loop around here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get off and do that, because I would like to get these discovered. Turn off my lights. I didn't realize I still had them on until I saw them reflecting off the car ahead of me. But yeah, sometimes the trigger points seem to occur on one side of the city versus another. So I think Phoenix is the one that sticks out the most, where I've thought in the past, like, oh, I'm not going to discover this on the interstate, and then suddenly it ticks off as I'm leaving. So I think the discover points are set differently per city, and I don't know if that's maybe a different designer, map designer, or whatever their title is. So whoever was doing that section of the map, maybe they just each have a different way of doing it. But I'm imagining we're going to discover Kingman here pretty soon. And then, hopefully it'll just be once we get near this industry and we won't have to actually circle around. But it's almost 6 1/2 dozen of the other at this point. Is it easier to just continue straight on? But no, I think this is early enough. I'm going to make a UE here. And given that we have no traffic, and this is a really short little stubby trailer, so it's partially why I want to do these discoveries, because I can just do this, get it unlocked, and move on. So, and it really was a digression of, if we had hit the lights correctly, it would have been almost nothing, but
Go straight on.
Obviously we weren't quite so lucky getting off the interstate. We hit both lights, but we got that green light. Hopefully the arrow turns now. No, doesn't look like we will. We're going to have to wait for the cross traffic, but did it tell me to go straight on? Well, I'm not going to go straight on because I don't want to go that way. Because the initial thing it was taking me on took me down through California, and I definitely want to go this way because I want to discover these cities. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to take me back up through things I've gone through quite a bit, and I'm going to avoid that. So I'm going to let her recalculate the original route we were on, go from there. So just like a real, GPS, they obviously have modeled this similar in the game here, where the logic maybe is exactly the same, where when you get off and turn around, suddenly the GPS is like, oh, well, I'll take you this completely different way just because you took one turn. But I know the original route was basically taking me across, I think, to LA and then up. Not really the coast, but kind of the western side of California, kind of straight up into Coos Bay. So it looked like the brief peek at the map I had. We're going to hit Barstow next as our next discoverable location. And that one, yes, we do need to exit to discover. So we'll be doing things similar to this, but I think ultimately it's, give us a lot of new locations, at least, that we theoretically have accessible, but not extend the length of this thing horrendously. We'll start to see, because I'm hopeful that once we really get into California, as I said, I don't think we're going to remain on the interstate for very long, so I'm hopeful that we really only have to do this with another 2 or 3 locations, and that the other 4 or 5 that I may be being generous. I don't know that we really have 8 discoverable locations, but there are a lot of cities in California, so it's possible, given that we're traversing pretty much a good 3/4 of California on this run. We might discover 8, because I think there's 22 cities in California, so. Oops, we have dropped down. I was starting to think, I'm like, Barstow is in California. Alright, I think that's 60. Again, really hard to see. But once we shave off enough speed. So it's interesting there, you see it discovered that entire travel plaza. That doesn't happen. It may actually only be right at this location that happens. Usually, unless you're exiting and pulling off, you don't get that discovery at all. But for whatever reason, again, kind of the quirks of the map design, as we've talked about, that is discoverable. Because every time I've seen it, I'm like, whoa. Because even as you go by rest areas or other things, unless you pull off, it doesn't give you credit for having discovered that section of road. So it's certainly not just that, well, it's not an exit, so that's why it discovered it, because it doesn't do that with way stations and rest areas a lot of the time. So obviously we've got a bit of a grade here, because even with a really light load, we've shaved off some speed heading up that hill here as we're moving into California a little further. But back up to our max, and yeah, what I was starting to say is, yeah, Barstow's in California. At some point we're gonna have to slow down, and then I looked down at my speed and saw, I'm going 80 in a 55. Not a good idea. So, because as I said, pretty much immediately after Kingman we go into California, but wasn't thinking about that any longer after I had to do the gymnastics to discover Kingman. So yeah, we've got another set of big hills here. Not sure that I've taken this stretch that often, so just kind of interesting where it's a bit more hilly than typically Southern California is, although you do have, I think, the Sierra Nevada range that kind of goes down. I know it's near LA, if I recall, so we are headed in that direction, so maybe that's what we're passing through. There's a little bit of a bump there. So yeah, it looks like we'll be certainly able to not have to stop and fill up before we rest. But obviously, we'll have to do a rest on this trip, which is not unexpected. Got to pull into the way station here, so it's actually quite an early flag. A lot of times, as you've seen, by the time that notification stops, you're on top of the way station. Yeah. So take a little longer, because maybe not. Well, I was like, is he going in or not? I see. He may. Oh no, he's still going. It's over here. This one has got me a little confused, I thought, because there are lanes that you can pass, and the way I saw that angle, I thought the scale was actually in the other lane, and he was suddenly now deciding that he was going to do a pass-through, which would have been great, because then we don't have to wait for him to weigh, because they're not as good, as I tend to do it. I just literally stop, weigh, go. They tend to sit and wait for a little bit, which I think mimics reality a bit, because typically there's some paperwork exchanged in reality in a weigh station at times. So, you'd obviously be stopped for a second while you're handing things to the agent. All right. So, moving again. So yeah, you can see the vehicle speed limit for four-wheelers is 70, but in California, as I said, it seems, what I've seen in the sim is that you're always at 55, regardless of where you're at for trucks. So it does get a little more confusing if you are able to notice the speed limit signs, because they will go up and down, because sometimes they'll drop to 60 and so forth, and then suddenly you'll see it, oh, it was 60, now it's 70, I'll get to speed up, but your trucking limit doesn't change. So plays tricks on your mind. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna say too much before I jinx our situation, but we're now a good half hour into this video. It's run smoothly. I think we're safe, but then again, the last episode, I think we made it. Oh, here comes a plane. right over the top. So I like those little added extras they put in that just, you know, give you that feeling of really being in a live environment. You know, as I said, you know, obviously you've got the vehicles and so forth, but even those extra things are just, you know, having cows and horses and at the side of the road and other things that make the world feel lived in versus just, you know, a fake sterile environment, which obviously we know we're not really driving a truck, we're driving a, you know, a simulation, but still adds to the realism and just makes you feel like, wow, they thought of things, kind of like that exploded fire hydrant that we passed in the one video. Alright. I don't know, just for some reason it seems like it's a really long time. I thought we would have hit Barstow already, but probably right on top of it. I don't think we passed it and I missed it, because it certainly is close enough that I should have seen it. But yeah, Barstow, LA, straight ahead. So, and Barstow city limit. So if we don't get the ding before the exit here, or actually, well, let me take a peek. Oh, okay. No, we've still got to go somewhere. So, all right, Las Vegas heads that way, but we're going to do this loop because, yeah, we're actually getting on a different interstate here. Not entirely obvious in the game, but in reality, this may actually do this in the real world too, because I'm like, the interstate doesn't go on straight. We got some hot air balloons there. Some nice added scenery. Whoa, you didn't go very fast. So, I think I'm going to move over because I'm not sure we're going to get far enough ahead of him. And then he's going to cut right in front of us and we're going to hit him and have a fine for a crash, which we don't really need. So anyway, if we don't discover Barstow, we'll just pop off here, head to the right, and make sure we get that. It doesn't look like it's going to give it to us, so...
Okay, let's find a new route.
I'm just
Go
popping
straight
off to get some credit here, Sky, so don't get too mad at me. Don't hate me because I'm a trucker trying to play a
New
game.
route.
So I'll be able to turn here because, yeah, I was going to say I do remember now that basically as soon as you get there. So once again, it's just a nice... Now, I've got to be careful because I do have someone right behind me who might suddenly turn left and end up in my side, but hopefully not. Yeah, this is by far the shortest trailer I'll ever have in the game, so for doing stuff like that where I can actually U-turn in the intersection. Yeah, I've never been fined for that. I'm curious, like, if I had been doing that and it had been a police officer behind me, if they do actually ticket you for maneuvers like that, because obviously in the real world I guarantee you they would, but you know, to not make things crazy, because otherwise, you know, realistically we would have then taken that side road there, gone to this next exit, and it wasn't telling us. All right, sorry. All right, I'm pretty sure the way it's taking us through Bakersfield, which appears to be the next discoverable location, I think we will be on non-interstate at that point, because this really isn't an interstate per se, or it may actually exit us here on, I think, what is business route
Keep right
54.
and then exit right.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so hopefully Barstow was the last one we got to play games with, and the others will just be on these kind of roads through most of California. Because I don't think we had hit anything in Oregon, other than our destination, Coos Bay, which obviously I'd be very surprised if we didn't discover just by doing the delivery. But again, if we don't, we may add a little bit at the end just to trigger things appropriately. So I thought it's going to go down to 40. So there we go. So good news is with the lighter trailer versus the heavy haul we were doing in one of the previous episodes, that I think we spent 45 minutes or something never actually maxing out our speed. Even hitting the towns here, we're then able to accelerate quite quickly, given that we really aren't hauling much. So there you go. We're already back up to top speed. So I don't know if I don't think those are saguaro cactus, the taller things, because I guess I'm just used to those being a different shape, but I'm assuming the modelers, have photos and other things from these areas of the country that, maybe all they're doing is pulling them off the internet. But either way, I'm sure this is based on something that they didn't just say, well, I'm going to make these this way. I don't think they were creating Dr. Seuss trees or something, but who knows? Yeah, I guess that was a motorcycle for a trooper parked in the median there, but I was going to say I didn't see a trooper, but I'm wondering because pedestrians are off, so maybe it puts the bike in, but the trooper standing next to it is removed. Yeah, I was thinking for a second, I'm like, maybe I'll turn pedestrians back on, because I can't imagine they're that graphic intensive, because obviously they're, I haven't seen them be that intensive, whether I have it on or off. I haven't seen frame rates change really at all, but I don't know. I'm a little gun shy right now, so maybe we'll do that after several episodes of things working appropriately, as opposed to chancing it and then turning next episode into a nightmare just to see people at the beginning and end. Because obviously, like here, you're not going to have pedestrians just randomly show up. You're really seeing them at your origin and destination locations, but obviously periodically, if you've got officers that have pulled people over or something, there could be people there too, but it doesn't happen much on the road in between. So the impact options should be pretty small, even if we do elect to turn it on to just up the realism a bit and make the towns actually lived in. Because it's kind of nice, you'll, in that case, you'll see people walking along the sidewalk, playing in the parks, things like that just take the environment and change it from looking like it's COVID world where everybody's inside and you don't see anybody. But some more tumbleweeds. I haven't had those in a bit. I was gonna say we got a rest, so I may just take a quick look. Wow, got almost 16 hours of drive time still. Let me then take another look. So we are here. All right, yeah, I think I'm gonna push it to this location just before we get back on 5. So if we pull off now, we pretty much virtually have no opportunity to finish without another rest stop. Where if we wait another hour and a half, which is likely that's going to be. We won't have a sleep penalty, but we also might be able to complete the run without having to rest again. In addition, at this point, if we stopped, it's not too bad. It's going to be 3 a.m. when we restart. It would have been earlier than that. Obviously, we've passed the rest location, but so it also will minimize the non-daylight time we're driving, which again is what we've been trying to do lately, just to give some excitement to the videos where you can actually see things and it's not just headlights coming at us from the other direction and vague shapes in the shadows. And he's hauling a bulldozer, articulated load, similar to what we had at one point. Our famous cable reel that we rolled over. Looks like a similar configuration there. Although I don't know that was a lowboy trailer, but that we had with the cable reel, but certainly the front connections. So yeah, Bakersfield will be discovered here. So we're going right down the center, which is kind of what I was hoping that we'd see. Now we're going to likely have a speed limit issue right away, and there we go. Already discovered. Yeah. Somebody's going on vacation or coming home, I guess. Could be too. But that trailer over in the right. Yeah, so there's a Peterbilt dealer over to the right, but you'll notice we're not going to discover it because it's got that little curved driveway up. It's I guess, an annoyance in the game that clearly I've seen the sign. I should be able to discover it, but it actually requires you to go up that little segment of road to discover that dealer. Since, again, we're not near the point where I'm focused on buying a truck, I'm not really worried about having all the dealer types unlocked. Unlike the recruitment agencies, I have not seen any real benefit to having more than one dealer of any given make. You obviously need, say, to discover a Peterbilt dealer somewhere to have access to Peterbilt trucks if you want to purchase those. But unlike recruitment agencies where you then clearly will have more people to recruit from, you're going to have a longer list when you scroll through that. It's not like you suddenly get new truck types available or anything because you've discovered 3 Peterbilt dealers instead of just one. So that's also partially why I'm not really that concerned, because we'll likely over time discover one of each of the dealers just from naturally driving around, because at the destination points or the origins, as you've seen, sometimes there's dealers in the area, and we've unlocked a couple at least in this trucking story series just from doing nothing other than doing our jobs. So, and then the added reality, stay there. I think that's like an old school Thunderbird. That's pretty neat. Since I'm also really interested in only 3 types of trucks, an International, a Freightliner, or a Western Star at best, I'm also not terribly concerned about, do I discover every manufacturer within the game, because as long as I've discovered those 3, I've got all the choices I'm going to spend money on anyway.
Go straight on.
I was having a little bit of a panic attack. I'm like, oh no, is this the interstate? And I missed my rest stop, but obviously not. Because I'm like, I didn't see a rest stop marker on the route advisor. So, a little bit of brain panic there. Sorry about that. But we'll get through here. Okay. I said we're not going to get penalized for driving too long, but Oh no, we still got 49 minutes. We're good. Yep, we can already see the rest stop. I'm driving all over. That would have been a really poor decision to have a head-on collision with that cop. Not that having a head-on collision with anyone else is significantly better. Obviously, it's terrible.
Get ready
You know.
to turn right.
Again, obviously, in reality, a truck like this colliding with a vehicle like that, we'd likely kill the occupants. So it's
Turn
very
right.
terrible, but it's interesting that it actually wants me to turn right there. I think I'm just gonna go forward to the
Get ready to turn left.
rest stop that's straight ahead,
Turn
just
left.
because it's easier to deal with, and we'll rest here and be done, and then quickly turn around and leave. I know I'm getting tired. That's why I'm pulling in here. Come on. There we go. I'm like, is it gonna let me rest in these car spaces? But I was a little worried. All right, turn on our lights because obviously it's still pretty early. I know there was a light pole over to the right of us.
When
So
possible, make a U-turn.
that's what I'm doing. All right, so let's just take a quick peek. 14 and a half hours. Our duty time is 14 hours. I guess we'll see.
Turn right.
Sometimes, because we're moving a little faster than the speed limit, we start to compress that time is what happens, which is nice. So we may end up needing less than 14 and a half hours, and then we fit within our duty time easily. But even with that, as long as we don't get any significant delays, we should be okay, and not get a sleep penalty at the end. The challenge ends up being where I've gotten burned before is if you're sitting there and you have a hard time parking, you can spend 15 to 30 minutes in the yard and then you get a sleep penalty because of that. Where initially, if you just showed up and parked it in a couple minutes, you avoid that. So I guess we'll make the call as we go along and see what we see. So, because I do think, for example, I think the next discoverable location was Huron, and I do know that if we don't exit, we won't get that. But I'm gonna honestly skip that, because then we definitely create a problem where we have to rest again. And once again, in the way we're running right now, we're not going to get a load out of Huron. If we get one into it, great, we'll discover it then. But now that we've unlocked up to 2,500 miles, heading east-west, Huron's not going to be a location that we're going to get pulled out of. And subsequently, north-south, we're going to have the same situation. We're obviously heading north here in California. There's longer runs from or to cities further south. So, all right. So again, I think we've had 2 opportunities for way stations here, and we've had to pull into both. So, just picking up the conversation we had in the previous episode about, is it really 60%? Because many times it feels like 5 out of 6 times you're getting pulled in, and I would say that happens more than it doesn't. Is that car going to pass us? I mean, we are speeding up. He pulled back in behind us. That's Sweet. You know what? We didn't get gas. Let's just do this at this point, because otherwise we're going to have to stop for fuel, and this is way more convenient just being a pull-off travel plaza here than anything else we're going to come upon. So let me get this done, and then we'll be good to go. So, you know, when we're this tight on our duty time, this is where it gets interesting, because you do, while it is slower, as you can see, time does pass while you're fueling. So it may just be a minute or two, but you know, we are kind of cutting it pretty close, where that minute or two might be the difference between a sleep penalty and not. So, all right, well, he's deadheading it back without any load on that low boy there, but sometimes you got to do that when you're an owner operator and you've got, you know, your own equipment. So that's where, yeah, you know, I guess one of the things I can chat about as we go is, you know, the different ways you can play the game. You know, the one I haven't really tried. I do have a profile where I've bought some trailers, but I haven't actually myself used the trailers. I've you know, you have to put the trailers in one of your garages, so your drivers that are based out of that garage will use that trailer, but you know, and you'll see now we're passing Huron on the left. Sorry, so I kind of want to note this. And so the challenge with Huron is it's just that little tiny segment, and you do actually have to pass it right on the road there before you discover it. So we literally would have had to exit and drive that segment, a frontage road, which is obviously significantly slower than the interstate, and would have absolutely guaranteed we would have to rest again. So not worth it for basically, I think, what is one industry, maybe two. Although this Kiewit, I don't even know how to say that construction point on the right side, probably is Huron base too. But either way, like I said, with how we're running this, we're not going to be hauling loads originating out of Huron anyway, so it's just not worth it. So, you know, so I bought trailers. I've not seen the drivers who take the trailer, when I've looked at what their pay is, they're not making more money. When I've looked at things as far as discussions about it on the forums, most people indicate there's really not a premium for going into the cargo market. But I certainly have bought my own truck and then bought a bunch of garages. So I've got one profile where I think I'm over 100 drivers that I've hired at this point now. And realistically, other than it giving you a lot of money coming in, because at that point, I literally almost every hour have a driver who's you know, getting paid, and therefore I'm you know, watching the bank account balance move up if I'm so inclined to do that, because you can, in the route advisor, you'll get little scrolls at the bottom that will show you, you know, hey, Joe H, you know, finished, and here's you know, his $1,500 or whatever it is. You know, and just like you know, we're seeing our pay go up as the drivers get better. Your hired drivers, their pay goes up. So you know, there's definitely drivers who've given me $20,000-$30,000 in one load. You know, they're obviously taking, just like we would be, a couple days to deliver that. but when you have 100 drivers, you start having a lot of deliveries happening, and other than just the sim value of that, there's really nothing that changes in the gameplay. In the beginning, when you're starting to hire drivers and so forth, it helps just get more money so that you can buy garages and hire people and buy equipment for them to drive faster. But then even that gets kind of, all right, I've been there, done that. And so what I've started to find, because it's really obviously a truck simulator, and this is the core of the game, I'm not quite sure there's a lot of value.
Go straight on.
The car was too close on the left, and so sorry, had to slow down, otherwise there was going to be a wreck somewhere. So anyway, I'm not sure that honestly you couldn't enjoy the game completely by just playing it this way the entire time and just going up to any level, even if level 100 or whatever, which has got to take quite a bit of time. Again, my highest level drivers at this point are still just in the 40s, and as I said, I've already played hundreds of hours, so I'm pretty sure you need to be at thousands of hours of gameplay to get a driver to level 100.
Go straight on.
But I'm not sure that just not remaining a contract driver and just taking quick jobs really changes the overall enjoyment of the game. I mean, at the end of the day, now that we've done this a while, if you've stuck with us this far, and have watched what now is going to be exceeding or coming up on 10 hours of video, you either like this as a simulation and enjoy just going down the road, or you don't. But this is obviously 99% of what the game is about, and the rest of it is interesting, but yet really has no impact. So obviously unlocking cargo types, this and that, the expansion option of capability that I talked about in the previous episode, certainly I think would add something to this experience, which is one of the reasons I'm intrigued by it and curious if they would ever explore that. But got windmills up on the hill to the left. But as far as the rest of it, obviously owning your own truck gives you a different experience, because certainly, I'll mention it here, but when we get to the point in this series that I do that, it changes the dynamic of what you're doing, in that you're taking a job where you're at, which is again what an owner-operator would be doing. Is you're not wanting to bobtail somewhere for 500 miles. Although I will admit, when I played the game initially, just because I didn't quite understand how it worked, I was doing something similar, I think, where I was looking, I think, for the highest paying job, not necessarily the longest job. But obviously those two things somewhat go hand in hand, because if you've got a 15-mile job just within town, it's not going to pay you the same as a 2,000-mile job does, even if the pay per mile is significantly different. You're obviously not even going to come close. So I had my garage here in Bakersfield, and I took a job, my first job when I bought my truck. I took the job in Albuquerque, so I bobtailed it for 500-600 miles, which obviously I'm not getting paid for. And then kind of realized, well, that was stupid. I should have just taken a job where I was at. And, but live and learn. again, if I was doing this in real life and had just spent $180,000 on a truck, probably would have occurred to me a little bit more quickly that, yeah, I should probably be actually making money with this thing instead of just driving at 600 miles before I even use it to
And
make
then
any
turn
money.
right.
All right, so
Turn right.
San Rafael. It's gonna have us get off at Stockton. I guess I'll stay in the right lane here because I'm not clear what it's gonna have us do here. So I think we're just gonna keep going.
Go straight on.
Yep, there we go. Now I know we're gonna keep going. So yeah, so it changes the experience in game, obviously, if you're simming it more accurately, because one of the things, if you talk to real drivers, that can happen if you've got your own equipment is suddenly your load gets canceled. I was just watching a video that our company had connected us with, that someone had done just really about life of a trucker, and it was intriguing because one guy was like, yeah, he had had a job that would have paid him $1.80 a mile, which is pretty good because as a quick job type, a contractor like we are here, toll booth. So here's an experience that, and we can go through these without the gates, and it'll just take the toll. So you'll see it pop up, but then we don't have to stop. So there you go, $25 paid by the employer, which again, if you were an owner-operator, that $25 would come out of your pocket. But that becomes the difference that I was talking about. You might get 30 to 50 cents a mile as a contractor is kind of common. So just hearing that, he was going to get $1.80 a mile, clearly he's an owner-operator, because there's no way a contractor's going to get paid that kind of money. But his point was, he was getting paid that, which was a decent rate. I mean, he didn't say that, but just in the course of the conversation, you could tell he was frustrated. Like, hey, I was getting paid $1.80 a mile, and it was taking him by his house. And he proceeded then to share that, unfortunately, then, he had to call his 3-year-old son and say, hey, Dad's not going to be home like I had promised because, now they need to find another load, and you're doing that as quick as you can because otherwise
Go straight on.
you're not making any money. So it does absolutely give you that opportunity to simulate that in the game once you buy the truck, and that's honestly one of the reasons I don't necessarily take that option as frequently in profiles right now, because it's like, this way they get you to your location where you're driving from in game. You're in essence teleported there, but obviously in reality, you'd still be taking a bus
Go
or
straight on.
flying or whatever, depending on what they were having you do. And you're just driving, and so therefore you can bounce around the map pretty quickly. But as an owner-operator, it's like, well, I've dropped off, now I'm going to grab a load here. So, it does change the experience in the game, but then owning the garages really doesn't do anything. I mean, it doesn't change the driving experience at all. So, the one thing I will say I haven't experienced yet is, I think my understanding is once you get a garage maxed out, which means you have five slots or 5 bays, meaning that you can have 5 trucks at the garage. I think you then are able to refuel at your garages as opposed to filling stations. if you're obviously in the area, and I think then you have a discount. I don't think it's obviously free because you're still paying, but then again, I guess you've paid in the background, so who knows. Again, I haven't experienced in the game, so I don't know exactly how they've simulated that. So I have a few garages that are fully expanded. I have quite a few, actually. I think it may be over a dozen. But I've never had the opportunity to stop at one and use the fuel pump, and that's kind of the reality then of just how it works. It's like, I'm not going to seek out a job just to, hey, I want to refuel here, or at least I haven't yet. I suppose maybe I will at some point when curiosity gets the best of me. All right, so let's see where we're at. 750, 383 miles. So yeah, you can see we're kind of heading up. So yeah, Ukiah, Eureka. We obviously didn't discover San Rafael, didn't discover Oakland. So, there were several dots that we were near on the map that I thought we weren't, that we didn't discover. So that's where there's sometimes a little bit, without zooming in on the map, that you can't always tell, like, hey, this is a great route because I'm going to get a lot of discoveries. And then ultimately, unless you're willing to deviate, find out that's not the case. But I'm pretty sure that Ukiah and Eureka here, given what we're on, we will discover those. And if not, what I was looking at is, so now we still have 7:50 till rest time, and we've moved down the road a bit where we're down to probably 7.5 hours. So we have caught up where we can get this done in our duty cycle, which is awesome, because then we can just drive this and be done. So I'm going to make the executive decision of we'll discover what we discover as we drive, but I'm not going to jump off, because once again, as far north as these are, they're literally in the center of the map, north-south. I mean, they are at the extreme west, so it would be good. But once again, as you can see, there's really, I think, 2 industries here for Ukiah. I don't know.
Go straight on.
There we go. Well, we discovered it anyway, so it solved my problem. I honestly was like second-guessing myself, because I'm like, I'm not going to have to move around a lot, and given that these are on the far west, they may be origination points, kind of like Newport was for us when we discovered that. So there is some potential value at this point of getting these, but we'll see. Because I honestly don't think there's enough distance east-west that now that we've expanded to beyond 1,600 miles that we would ever be taking a long route length one out of here. And the exception would be, once again, like if somehow something has so many modifiers, again, fragile high-value cargo with urgent delivery, where I've got literally every multiplier I can have, in a shorter job becomes more XP. That would be the only time it would come up, but I don't know that we'd be above 1,600 miles, because I think that's what we need to be, because I don't think we can drop more than 200 or 300 miles and still have that work out anyway. So yeah, we should be done here. It's definitely will be below, a 2-hour video versus last time that, we ended up, because of the video software glitch, having to split it into 2 videos because the recorder just stopped on me. So obviously I couldn't really fix that. I mean, I guess I could have tried to use some video editing software to splice on 3 minutes, but whoa. I was just worried it literally was going to 1 lane, and I was entirely going to get cut off, but luckily that wasn't the case. But still, it was a little scary the way that worked. That is just a truly inconvenient rest stop and fuel area. But I suppose if we were at the point where we needed one or both, they're there, and you don't have a choice. But
Keep right.
I don't know if it's telling us to keep right because it's going to have us exit, or just because we're hitting this. I think it's because we're hitting this intersection. Like, it's just letting us know, hey, I'm not going to have you turn left there, but we know we're headed up to Oregon, so. But obviously the GPS doesn't know that we know that, so she's just doing her job. Another Boeing truck. I haven't seen one of those in a while. So I know I had said that I see more of those than you would think because there's only one Boeing location, but this is literally the second one we've seen in the series, so it's making me a liar that, you know, that they're overspawned. Because this is probably realistic in that, you know, we've been driving around for a week and a half, and great, we finally seen a second Boeing truck. So actually, yeah, it is about a week and a half, where it's already Thursday, so 3-4 days into our second week on the job. So yeah, I think we're coming up on Eureka pretty soon, and I think, again, just like Kingman was an indicator that we're heading out of state, Eureka's, I believe, similar to that on this route, where it's, I think, very near the Oregon border. But I think Coos Bay is a ways up in Oregon, so I think just because we've hit Eureka, I still think we have, I don't know that it'll be a couple 100 miles, but I think it's over 100 miles to go to get to Coos Bay. But so, but no, nice drive. Not a lot of traffic. I've honestly could have been in the left lane, probably should have, or right lane, should have been in the right lane. Just been cruising along in the left lane because it's like, hey, nobody's around, light traffic, everything's moving. There we go, reduced speed. So I'm sure we're arriving in Eureka. So this is the one nice thing with the truck limit being 55, that even though it's reduced speed, it takes a little longer. Now we are down to 40, so we do have to slow down, but now we're down to 30. Oh, that's interesting. So we do have a mod that changes the buildings to FedEx, but clearly, what was that? I don't know. I don't know if that was a weird truck sound, or, but we don't have the FedEx trucks modified, so. So that is interesting, but there's probably a mod out there for that, but I don't know that that's something worth searching, and again, adding another mod into the mix that I'd have to verify works. These do well, and you know, it only takes you out of reality for a moment, because everything else, you know, being changed with the mods I have, you know, I feel real world enough for certain. Range Rover in front of us, I think. Fancy. We are in California after all, though, so not surprising. Again, I really doubt that the Spawn engine is that intelligent to say, hey, put expensive cars in California, put, you know, cheap cars in New Mexico. But who knows? And given that, again, the mod overlay obviously is giving me the Range Rover, because I don't believe the Range Rover is one of the stock vehicles. Who knows? And obviously I guess it is replacing, in the mod, it's replacing a spawn of some sort that is happening in the game. Oh, I wonder if that's a Tesla. It looks like it could be with the large windshield. Alright, and I don't think the speed limit changes in Oregon, but I guess we'll see, because I'm not sure if I'm in Oregon yet or not. No, so, yeah, I don't think that said state line. There's a little tiny green sign. I'm too far away to actually have read it, and I don't remember like Crescent City and those others, if they are in Oregon or if they still are in California. I know Redding is still in California, and I think that was one of the exits that had just come up, so might not be quite as far north as I thought, but at minimum I think Eureka is the last discoverable city in California on this route. So it just might not be as near to the border as I thought. So it is nice when we don't have video glitches, that we can actually get through these drives in a speedy sort of way. We haven't even gotten to an hour and a half yet, and we're getting close. I don't know that we'll be done in an hour and a half, but who knows? It might happen. We can travel a long way in the game in 8 minutes. So, yeah, I know I've been this way before, heading south. This bridge is familiar. Whoop! Now we are going down to one lane, so give them some space. Now we're going to have to perhaps peter along, because that truck looks like they've got a bit of a heavy load. Even though these aren't significant inclines, I guarantee that he is having difficulty with them. Come on, guys. We've got an opportunity to pass him, so take it. The question is, can I get up to speed enough here? I think I can. Little engine that could. I think I can. Because, yeah, if I can. Tanker shouldn't necessarily be that bad, but that heavy haul is. Whoa, he's moving over to the left. That heavy haul is definitely going to get slowed up on these hills, so glad I could get by, because otherwise, yeah, that is going to lengthen our time if I can't move along. But of course, just like anything with traffic, it looks like we might be slowed down again. Now, some of that is because that Tesla's turning off. Why he decided, I don't know, I guess because he could have gotten off earlier and said, hey, I'm going to the rest area, but instead he took this later exit and said, oh, I'm going to go rest. But maybe it was an afterthought, like as he passed it, and said, because there was a sign, don't know if you caught it, that said elk country or something, so maybe there's an elk viewing, and maybe he had kids in the back screaming, Dad, we want to see the elk. And then he was able to make him happy, popping in later. So yeah, I've been down the route, but yeah, these routes again are one of those. Yeah, I had to step on the brake there, where well, we can pass in this short segment, given that we've got 4 cars ahead of us, and it's not like, gee, I passed this one guy, I'm suddenly free and clear. Now we're kind of at the pace that they're going. Good news is that Pepsi truck seems to be able to be maintaining speed, so we're not having to slow down too much, but he does, where we could have likely taken that turn fully at speed. The AI does, if it's a 45 mile an hour turn, will slow down and be close to that. So got the ocean on the left. Nice view. Oh, a little bit of a hiccup there. Sorry. But this is not, again, unexpected. We're in an area, obviously, we've got a lot of trees. This is definitely one of those where it's pretty intense on the rendering. Good news is we had another AI vehicle peel off. So the post-ed truck and the car can now catch up to the truck ahead, and we can move along a little bit quicker. But anyway, what I was going to say, with all the trees and stuff, the rendering intensity, again, is gone up a notch from where we were a little while ago. So a bit of a glitch here and there is not unheard of, and at least that was more normal. There's like a Paul Bunyan statue off there. I don't want to make anybody dizzy by taking a look, but yeah, magic trees. I did not see that last time, so that was kind of cool. At least I assume it was Paul Bunyan because it looked like he was near an ox. And construction site. Wonder if that's a drop-off point for deliveries at times. Sometimes which is kind of cool, you will get that in the game where you're literally just dropping, a backhoe or something off at the side of the road that the construction crew needs. So those are fun too. All right, whoop, he's turning too. I was going to say the post-ed truck is gone. So I think all we got is the Pepsi truck, but maybe he's delivering in town here, and I don't know, maybe this is Coos Bay already. Guess we'll find out in a moment. I'm not seeing any words. No, Pepsi's still up there, so. Alright, back up to 55. Looks like he is turned off. So, smooth sailing ahead. That was clearly not Coos Bay, so. Alright, welcome to Oregon. So now we finally got to Oregon. And still 55. Again, I think it will stay that way. So the hope of maybe a little faster, but obviously this road's pretty serpentine, so not sure that we'd be able to go much faster realistically. Anyway, the good news is light load. Even though we're climbing, we lost a couple miles an hour there, but I was going to say before that, we were still actually staying right at 60, even though we were going uphill. So. Let's see, these are, whoops, that surprised me. I was looking at, trying to make sure I saw the road sign, because I'm like, yeah, seeing how many curves we have, I do think these are slower, and they were 35 mile an hour curves, so I don't want to at the last minute run off the road, do things I don't need to do just to save a few extra seconds, because obviously it didn't take us that terribly long to get through these. I still did them above 55, but doing them at 60 I think would have been pushing it, given that I was still whipping around there pretty good. And we've caught up to some traffic again. Looks like maybe a flatbed with something heavy on it again, so that would make sense. But good news is we're closer to our destination. And we also only have 2 cars, so there's a possibility that if it really gets crazy, I may try to pass them because they are close enough, but not sure. Not sure that it's viable, but we'll see. And maybe one of these guys will turn off. Nope. Thought maybe someone would decide they needed a rest, but they're pressing on. Yeah, he's got a bulldozer. Now I can see it clearly. Well, we've got what looks like maybe a bay, so could we be coming up on Coos Bay? Best Buy truck heading up that road over to the right. So yeah, even though we can't go there, I do like the fact that they don't just suddenly have the AI vanish once they go beyond those walls, so that you do have something like that where suddenly on a road you can't get to, you've got traffic moving down it, adding to the realism, kind of like the plane that flew over earlier. Man, I'm like physically getting tired. I'm ready to be done. So good that our load is coming to an end here. So as you do get to these longer drives, that is somewhat the reality. Well, this one wasn't that terribly long, but I did end up spending like an hour of time trying to get everything fixed up again to get this video to at least come out. Thank God the way it has, where at least it's usable. But you know, where obviously I would have been driving, so I've spent an extra hour in real time poking around with the game, getting ready for this. So no, I guess that wasn't Coos Bay, because whatever we saw, now we're clearly at the wider ocean again on the left. So, but we got to be getting close at this point. I'll just play with the realism game and not worry about it on the GPS, and because at the end of the day, we'll get there when we get there anyway. But lots of twists and turns here. Another rest area. So yeah, you can go for hundreds of miles in Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona without hitting anything, and here we've hit 2 in what likely is 50 miles, but some of it I'm sure is because there's a position to put a parking space, and you know, everybody wants to stop and look at the ocean. So alright, now we do have the reality. Alright, we have an hour and 15 minutes. We are going to need to look. Alright, we're still good. So 34 miles, we got 39 minutes. I was just starting to worry, like, has it caught back up with us the other way, where suddenly we can't make it before we have to rest, you know, and I find that out as we pass probably the last rest area. But again, we're short enough. I suppose I could have whipped around and headed back to avoid the fine, but poor planning, because I am actually tired where I didn't think of it, because obviously I didn't hear it at the earlier time. So we'll see what happens. So I apologize. I hope the microphone isn't as sensitive. One of our cats has suddenly decided that they want my attention, and they're meowing furiously behind me. So I don't know if you heard that, but for now they've stopped. They've realized I haven't turned around to look at them, so maybe they've given up. Let's hope. Alright, down to 45. Oh yeah, and I can see the delivery point actually has appeared on Route Advisor. Because I'm like, if we're slowing down, we're clearly getting into a town, and given how close we knew we were, I'm like, we're obviously getting to Coos Bay. Of question is, are we going to discover it or not? And if not, do I want to play that game? Past the welcome to Coos Bay sign. A lot of times that's enough to give us the discovery, but it hasn't here. So we've got a logging company off to the right. There we go. I'm like, we're clearly in town. Like, why is this not discovering? But thank God it did, because I'm like, that would be irritating, frankly, because I certainly do want to discover it, because, you know, I'm hoping this is like Newport, where I can get things out of here, because clearly we've got a lot of things. Well, Victoria's Secret billboard was there. I didn't know they had those as part of the real one. It's, I think, the first one, clearly the first one of those I've seen, because I'm surprised by it. So, that's right, we were delivering to Walmart, but I was assuming it might have just been a store, but looking at the map, this looks like it might be a DC for the region, which I suppose maybe just cheap labor or whatever, but I'm like, I think a DC would be a more populated area, because I can't imagine this
Right. And then
Coos
turn
Bay
left.
is very populous, but
Turn right.
maybe it is.
Finally, we are here.
We are here. Let's see. Looks like we go here, maybe. Oh, delivery only. We go here. Because I'm like, that's a pretty tight fit trying to go in that gate, but this makes a little bit more sense, although it's not like there's a whole lot of clearance. Man, if we had an extended trailer, but they may not have you deliver anything crazy on an articulated trailer other than, you know, a double or a triple, which you could make that turn in the way those function. But Coos Bay's got, looks like, again, a split city center, roads connecting in between. So let's take a look here. I'm thinking we got to back in. Oh, a little different than I thought, but okay. So we'll pull through here. And then we'll just do blind side reverse. But since I do it this way, it doesn't honestly matter. I need to go forward a bit, although with the short wheelbase, I'm going to try to remember that we don't have to go as much as one would think, because, well, looks like we might have to go more than I thought. So I'm going to use this little trick here and kind of cheat, because then we can swing this pretty quickly. Now too quickly while I was playing with my camera. So let me straighten this out some. There we go. Oh, goodness. I am trying to do this quickly, and I'm just making stupid mistakes, honestly. Oh, boy. So yeah, that pivot point obviously is tight on this, and it causes some challenges. Hey. Wow. Well, that'd be great if I needed to go in that bay, but I don't. What do I want to do here? Like I said, these short wheelbase trailers are always a pain, honestly. I think I want to go this way. And yeah, now we're running into what I was worried about, where it's like, am I going to get a sleeping violation because I'm sitting here parking forever? I think I went way too far the other way. God, these short trailers are just, they are the death of me, clearly. And my guess is, which is really the sad part, I think I'm going to get 40 points for this. 40 XP. Even though, clearly, for me, this is an extremely challenging parking job. I should be able to get this in this time. Let's see. Alright, I think I still overshot it a bit. Let me straighten it out, but at least now I'm within spitting distance here. Yeah, I know I'm getting tired. I get it. Sorry, I just don't want to make a mistake because I just want to be done. It's just like going back to the early videos where it took me forever to park. But there we go. Alright. Let's decouple quickly before we get a sleeping penalty. So 2400 XP. That was just 40. That's what I figured. Oh! But we got 2 levels. So we went up quite a bit. So we are going to add gases and you know what, I'm just going to do gases and flammable liquids because again, flammable liquids gives us gas, diesel, kerosene. It still gives us multiples even though it's just one placard. You know, because what I tend to do is, you know, the things that clearly I've got, you know, a bunch of flammable solids, a bunch of aluminum and white phosphorus, sodium, calcium, potassium. You know, there's theoretically a lot more options there, but there's certainly plenty of options with the flammable fuels as well. So we'll go with that. Just take a quick look so you can see the giant leap we made. You know, we went and, you know, got 3,500. So we've still actually increased our XP pretty nicely over where we were at. So glad I could get that to work. I'm going to wrap this up and we will see you next time. Thank you.